probably in that case K-pop fan, because K-pop is huge, is around the world. It's not limited to Korea, right? The Asian, I remember both Koreans and Japanese fans cleaning up the seats. This always goes viral.
How did you get the first working on mega event?
I'll surprise you with my answer, but basically I have had no experience in sport nor in sport events, or nor in events at that time. I got involved by chance. At that time, I was working in a hotel in London. I had a girlfriend in Milan, and my best friend just started an internship in Torino. So I told my girlfriend, should we meet in Torino, which is close to Milan? We went out for dinner together with my friend and her new colleagues. And at the end of that dinner, a Greek girl told me, I think you would be perfect. There's an American company where my friend works. Do you want me to introduce you to them? I said, oh, yes, absolutely. So that night, after a few drinks, we went to a pub where his friend and his colleagues were. We spoke a little bit. He told me, send me your CV. A couple of weeks later, I got a call. It was my first phone interview, then another interview in person, and then I got the job. So that's how I got involved in sport events. It was probably I was the right person at the right time at the right place. So meaning that luck plays a very important role in our life. Especially it played a very important role in my career.
As you know, recently, Jungkook from BTS performed at Qatar World Cup opening ceremony, so it was very huge. What do you think about how K-pop and global pop culture influence the excitement and engagement around sports events?
I remember well the performance. I was there at the stadium. It was amazing and influences sport. If we think about the connection of the music of the World Cup and the World Cup itself, you're too young to remember, but 1994, La Vida Loca from Ricky Martin was a huge hit. 2010, there was Shakira. 2014, Pitbull, and then Qatar. I mean, music and football, they go together. Sport and football uses music to engage with fans, probably in that case K-pop fans, because K-pop is huge, is around the world. It's not limited to Korea, right? There's 3 shops in Rome about K-pop, focused on K-pop. Can you believe that? So important so to engage with youth or new generations that probably are interested in the music, not so much into sport, but they get closer. And music and sport, somehow they have a lot in common. It's about passion. It's about being a fan of. We are fanatic of an artist, of a football team or an athlete. There's this thing that puts them in common. That is passion, emphasizes the passion, and is something that affects our mood. We feel happy when we hear a song or when our team wins a match. So there's a lot of influence of music into sport and vice versa, and they are so important for the human being in general.
Does music actually influence the amount of the number of spectators coming to the mega events?
Indirectly, it does. I'm pretty sure it does. And if I think about the enhancement of the physical experience recently, also in this stadium, but in general, in the stadiums, I've seen a lot of more music pre-match is played. So there's an increase in the attendance because the people are actually entertained. If we think about the chants of the fans, the tradition in Rome is to use traditional songs of the Italian pop music to do the chants of AS Roma. So with with specific words. Of course, they are different, sometimes also bad words, but to actually cheer for your team, you use the music. So there is so much connected to it. Absolutely.
So, what are some of the differences you've noticed in how fans cheer or celebrate?
Oh, there's huge differences because the way the fans behave and do cheer for their teams of their favorite athletes changes according to the culture. South Americans, for example, they are way much more musical in the way they cheer. The Asian, I remember both Koreans and Japanese fans cleaning up the seats. And this always goes viral. I've seen it in the last 3 World Cups at least. It always goes out into the media. It's a very nice example of the respect of the infrastructure of the local hosting country and so on, which is amazing. Americans, they are different in the way they experience. They want to be entertained in the real sense of entertainment. There's no that part of competition which is very intense. Even in football, in the US, it's not so radical in that sense. So think about South Africa. Now I'm trying to think about all the continents. In football stadiums, the vuvuzela, no, and so on. So every continent, every country has its own peculiarities, which is the amazing thing. I always say that the atmosphere created by the spectators is actually the final reason why, the main reason why we want to go to the stadium. The excuse is the sport performance, but actually what we are looking most of the time is on the stands, what happens on the stands.
Could you tell me some behind the scenes how this goes on?
Which is taking care of our main client, which is the volunteer. By taking care of your volunteer, you are taking care of the spectators, basically. So what you wouldn't expect behind the scene is the amount of time we spend on planning the rotation, the breaks, and considering the competition schedule, how you keep people hydrated all the time. I have this best practice learned from the American company, which is creating a team specifically to give water and food or breaks to the team. So they are roaming around and asking if everything is okay and so on. This is really important. They might be starving. They are not able to perform. They might be complaining. You need to take care of that. You need to give them the break at the right time, and you cannot send them all together to eat. So there's lots that you create. You agree with the catering manager to reserve some seats for your team because there's not much time for them, considering all the walk they need to do to get to the lounge and a lot of things that you need to consider. So that is the behind the scene for a spectator service manager.
So, have you ever had to deal with major challenges or crisis in big events?
Major challenge in my career probably is always related to the experience in Brazil. So 1 year ahead of the World Cup, you used to have the Confederations Cup. That's when it's the time to test a few of the stadiums that will host the World Cup. So in Fortaleza, there was a match, Brazil against, I don't remember which team, and so the stadium was gonna be packed that day. So during the entry, I hear on the radio from the headquarters that my manager is freaking out because there's an issue at the entrance. So basically, the issue was that the majority of the spectators ended up being directed by the whole city to the smaller entrance, while the bigger entrance is where the checkpoint from security is. So the bigger entrance had few spectators in line, The smallest entrance had a huge crowd that was not manageable anymore. That was the level of issue we faced. It was dramatic at some point, and the way I solved it is by sending two additional teams, provide them with the instruction what to tell to the whole city, what to tell to the police, how to try to avoid that to happen again, and it worked somehow, but it was a huge challenge that we had to face.
Were there any unique ideas or strategies you introduced to improve the fan experience?
It's related to the same story. So from challenges, we get opportunities for improvement. And basically, after the Confederations Cup, my main thought was. How can we avoid this to happen again, especially in the World Cup with the media exposure that we have? Even though it's not our responsibility as a local organizing committee to define the information that go on the tickets, we need to influence that. We need to provide that information. So I started touring all the stadiums from each seat, with the way back to the transportation drop-off load zone, and define the flow. So how many people could actually go through that turnstiles? How many people could actually go through that security checkpoint based on the time available? And connecting the dots basically provided FIFA with the right information for the 12 stadiums, and we didn't have a single issue on crowd management in the World Cup. 64 games, 3.5 million spectators. On top of that, is one of the tangible legacy of that World Cup is that the layout of the ticket that I designed is still nowadays used in FIFA World Cup, because in that ticket there's an information that there was not before. Is the entrance, meaning the checkpoint, security checkpoint, which is the first checkpoint that you will need to reach through the journey that takes you to your seat.
So it's gonna be very helpful for them to plan transfer by looking at the information in the FIFA ticket.
Correct. It's going to be easier, first of all, to put the information clearly from left to right and step by step approach, and which is the first step? The first step is the entrance. So if you provide the information of the entrance to the spectator will start looking at, okay, which is the transportation mean that takes me closer to my entrance. So you're influencing the decision from way before the event on how the journey will be, and that makes all the difference in the world.
How would you compare the way these events are run and what stands out about their different approaches or cultures?
The culture is both IOC and FIFA are European-based organization, so more traditional. But while the IOC has a tradition of transfer of knowledge, they started from Sydney Olympic Games, and they did an amazing job. There's nowadays, if you work in an local organizing committee of an Olympic Games, and you're a head of or director, you have access to a platform that gives you the manual of your how to build your department, which is the level of service that your client is expected to receive, and so on. So you have actually a good manual to follow, and the IOC will check your work for every milestone you reach. While FIFA doesn't put into writing, there's no manual. It makes sense because it's a global event. It's a global event that applies locally, and the local legislation is different from country to country. Think about Qatar and the alcohol-free solution that they found. It's been changing a lot. It's difficult to answer because it evolved, and now they're more involved into the venue stadium operations. They are more focused on the athletes, teams experience, absolutely, the security side. There's a lot into that. Americans in the Super Bowl, it's totally different. It's the same country. It's huge, federal laws, but it's the same country. So you don't have those challenges from a legislation perspective, adapting the event to the local reality. It's amazing to see. It was amazing to see in the Super Bowl that is a celebration of the sport, not of the teams of the finals. If you think about the UEFA Champions League final, the celebration is about the two teams that get to the final. No, the Super Bowl is the celebration of all the teams. So the fan experience site, there's stands from all the teams. It's really nice, and they take the fan experience to the next level, which is amazing. In Europe we are 15 to 20 years behind them. This is pretty much the differences.
This is gonna be end for the part 2 and our interview.
Thank you so much, and until the next time, good luck for your career, guys.
Thank you. 3, 2, 1.